everyone, and welcome back to episode 101 of the Dyslexia Lifehack Show. I want to welcome back on the podcast Natalie Brooks. She is the founder of Dyslexia in Adults. She was last on the podcast way back in December 2022, which was episode 39, so a very long time ago, and it would be good to catch up with her. But she now has written a book, Dyslexia Unlocked, which is focusing on building toolkits to help dyslexics. So let's get stuck in with Natalie and see what this book is all about. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm feeling very honoured.
You're dragging me out of hiatus, retirement? I'm
I was
not really
say
sure.
Out of retirement, yeah.
Getting that way.
Very touched.
I found lots and lots of other things to distract me in the meantime. So, but talking about distractions, are you still travelling the world? Because that was something you were doing a lot when I last spoke to you.
Ever so slightly less travelling the world, but still a fair amount of travelling the world. I kind of split my time between Cape Town and London, which is very nice, especially as it's just been winter, which I have just skipped.
I know that's cheating, skipping winter in the UK, you know. So
yes.
Why Cape Town and London? Out of all the places you visited, I understand London, you grew up there and lived there, but yes. Cape Town, what made you pin yourself down to South Africa and Cape Town?
It's just an amazing place. It's beautiful. There's amazing scenery and it's a great city. The people are wonderful. It felt the closest to home. I think it was felt like home, but with sunshine.
Oh, nice. So do you have like a permanent place you live there, or are you still kind of nomading it?
No, I have a permanent place that I live there. I have a dog, I have a boyfriend. It's all very mundane.
I was to say, this is very grown up for...
It is very grown up, yeah. I try my best. It very neatly coincided with getting a book deal. I was like, okay, a little bit less gallivanting, a little bit more working.
No, that makes sense, yeah, because I mean, we will get to the book a bit later on, but a book deal, I need to write that down, is a very big thing. So I can understand why having to write a book as a dyslexic person will pin you down. But before we do that, let's catch up on Dyslexia in Adults.
Yeah.
I mean, its presence has grown loads since we saw each other like a couple of years ago, because obviously Dyslexia Show didn't happen last year, so we didn't get to bump into each other then, unfortunately, which is our normal annual catch-up.
Routine, yeah. I don't know what to say. Dyslexia in Adults, it kind of just grows and grows every year. I will admit to being a despicable workaholic, which probably has something to do with it. But yeah, I just feel like it really fills a void that is out there. People talk a lot about ADHD and autism, and people talk a lot about dyslexia in education. And I'm not saying any of those things are fixed and working, but there's kind of just a gaping void when it comes to adult dyslexia. There's kind of a handful of players that work on it and support people, but there's millions and millions of people. So, you know, I'm really happy with how it's doing and where it's at, but it just feels like a never-ending amount of things to kind of work on.
Yes, I can imagine. And you have various kind of branches of it. And you seem to find new ones, which might be why there's never-ending things to work on.
I know. I did also put my podcast on hiatus for a year because I just got to the stage where I just thought, this is ridiculous. Like, something's got to give. And
yes.
I said to myself, I'm going to take a week break. Week break became a month became a year.
Yes, one sympathises on that one. Yeah, because how many episodes did you get into with your podcast?
I'm not sure, but I was going for about a year and a half, weekly episodes. So I was fairly committed. Yeah, and you just, all these things take more time and effort than I think anyone ever will realise.
Yeah, podcasting and all the other stuff. There's a lot goes on in the background, isn't there? It's not just about us having a conversation for an hour. It's all the production, editing, uploading to websites, photos, show notes.
Matt has emailed me about 4 times asking for a headshot and a bio, and I keep evading his emails.
As I say, I've got one that's about 3 years out of date.
Yeah, I must say, in Dyslexia in Adults, we put out a weekly post, a monthly membership, a weekly email. I do corporate training. So this week is Neurodiversity Celebration Week. I've done 5 trainings this week. I'm speaking at a conference tomorrow. I do coaching. We run courses. I have a free guide. It is quite relentless keeping up with it all. And then also in the background, without ever being able to tell anyone, also writing a book. Just did slightly push me over the edge.
Yes, I can imagine. How big is the team now? Because obviously you're not necessarily supporting it all by yourself at this point in time.
Yeah, at the moment, it's just me and one other full-time employee because I did spend the last year massively simplifying things because I kind of grown all of these legs of these different operations that I had, and they all had quite complicated processes and like setup. So at one stage it was 4, but I have slimmed it down to 1 just because I've been really rigorous of like making my business as dyslexic friendly as I possibly can. So I've got kind of all of these structures to make it as easy as possible.
So how does a dyslexic friendly, I guess, built from the ground up business look? What sort of things are you building into it without kind of giving away all the stuff that people pay you to do?
Lots of structure so that it's kind of doesn't let my brain percolate with too many ideas and like, little rabbit warrens I can get myself going down. So all of our presentations have kind of a standard process and setup so that they're kind of very easy to create. Lots of just the same thing in different formats. And so there's kind of the same advice we're giving that we just give in lots of different formats, lots of deadlines as well to get me going with lots of my tasks to help task initiation. Yeah, I think it's all just simplified. It's all just, I've taken a lot of effort and time to create simple structures that then other people can either do or don't let my brain go on too many tangents.
So would that be your key bit of advice to dyslexic small business owners, is that try and build?
I think so. A lot of templates, a lot of structure, a lot of deadlines.
Yes. Funny how not having a deadline ends up, I can't think what the principle is, but the length of the task always grows to meet the length of the time you've got to do it.
Exactly.
So with all of this going on and your weekly emails and corporate training, somehow you managed to land a book deal. Now, how did that come about? Who did you talk to that kicked this sort of thing off?
Yeah, Matt, you actually won't believe it. Do you remember those annoying videos I used to make at the Dyslexia Show where I'd shove a camera in your face?
Yes, I do. I remember one of them actually getting a load of likes.
One of them went stratospherically viral.
Did it?
And got sold by the publisher. Yeah, so she saw a few of the videos that we put out at the Dyslexia Show, whatever the last one was, to be honest. Yeah, so 2.5 years ago.
2024, yeah.
Yeah. She reached out to me. She sent me an Instagram message, and I get a lot of Instagram messages, so I just didn't see it. And then she sent me an email, and I was like, sounds like a bit of a waste of time. Like, that's never going to happen. Ignored it. And then she sent another email, and I just was like, I'm too busy. I've not got time for that. Ignored it. And then she booked in a call with me because you can go on my website and you can book in a call.
Yes.
She booked in a call. And she was like, listen, everyone is writing a book on neurodiversity. Neurodiversity is just everywhere at the moment. Someone needs to write the book on adult dyslexia. I think you should do it. And I was like, sounds like a good idea, but like, I'm a bit busy. Sorry, I just can't. It just sounds like way too much effort. And I was like, I'll do it in like a couple of years or something. Like, thanks for reaching out. I'll contact you in a couple of years' time, which I'm just so mortified about now. And then I told a few of my like friends and family, and they were like, you said what? And I was like, I'm just busy. Like, I don't have the time. And they were like, find the time, make the time, email her back. And and then the rest is history. And then about 5 minutes after I emailed her, I realized how gigantically stupid I had been, and was like, okay, cool, I'll get on that. Yeah. And then I did the whole thing at breakneck speed. So you're supposed to write a book in about 3 years.
Yeah.
And by the time we got to the signing of the contract to the kind of publication date, it's going to be about 18 months, almost 2 years. So
how did you plan all that? Because imagine somebody's like, write a book on dyslexia in adults. You're like, where do I start? Because you would have all these bits of the website, all the feedback you would have had from various social medias.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of been testing it, I guess, what sticks with audiences.
Yeah. And do you want to hear what the publisher said? She said, just write the manuscript and then come back to me. And I was like,
right, that easy.
What do you mean? What do you mean just write a manuscript? She was like, yeah, just 50,000 words. Like, it doesn't have to be a big book. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So 4 months later, I delivered a 80,000 word manuscript because it was a bit unwieldy and a bit unstructured. And then
why not over deliver, eh?
Exactly. Because there's lots of stories. So there's lots of my stories and my clients' stories and people that I've spoken to stories. So it's got a lot of like hopefully more interesting elements than just do this, try this, do that. Then me and the proofreader jigged things around, cut things out, made it a lot more concise. and kind of worked through it to make it the kind of very, very good manuscript it is today. But I'm not sure it was quite there at the first round.
Well, I've always been told, because one of my things I find hardest with sort of stuff that's written is getting anything on the page in the first place. And if we can get stuff on the page, we can edit. They use 4-letter words, so I'm trying to think of something else. You can edit whatever's on the page, but if there's nothing on the page, we can't touch it at all because it's all stuck in your brain, and that's no good to anybody when we need to write a written book, dissertation, application, whatever it is. So I suppose having a publisher and an editor really does help out with that one.
It made a huge difference, I must say. I was so grateful in how much they supported, and like at every turn they just kind of kept on saying, don't worry, we help with this. This is our job. Like, this is what we do. You just have to give us your ideas, and then we spell check it, proofread it, edit it. So I actually never felt nervous about any of that. They just kind of took their arms around that part of the problem. They were like, just give us your brilliance and we'll do the rest, which was just really sweet and made the whole thing feel much more like kind of approachable. And the only thing that I did do to try and make it easier with that concept of like something's got to be on the page is she said to me, like I said, the publisher said to me, just write the manuscript and come back to me. And I was just like, oh God. I said, listen, I can't just write a manuscript. That is the most terrifying sentence you've ever said to me. I was like, how about I send you a chapter in 2 weeks and then you just have a look at the chapter, check it's not shit, and then we can go back and I can send you the rest. And she said, yeah, if that's what you want, if that's what helps, do that. She replied saying, don't worry, it's not shit, keep going.
Well, that's useful to know. And actually, that's a nice way of running into it. Like, let's do a chapter and build some confidence before.
Yeah, I think I needed a little bit of confidence. I must say, I was feeling a little bit nervous.
Yes, I can totally imagine. How did you weave it together? What sort of thing did you initially grab onto to get you started, to get you rolling through it? You said about writing a chapter, but what chapter come to your mind first, and had you seen the book mapped out in your brain before you kind of started writing?
I wouldn't say that a book was mapped out in my brain, but I do have a kind of framework that I teach. So there was the kind of basis of a structure already. So I try and teach 3 parts to a successful dyslexic. So unlocking confidence, unlocking strategies, unlocking strengths. So that was an easy first start. And so they're the 3 sections of the book. And then the kind of 2 things that I hear most from dyslexic people is I feel alone and I don't know what to do. So I kind of just, every chapter is structured like that. I feel alone. Okay, so if you've got low confidence, or if you've got working memory challenges, or if you feel exhausted all the time, or you don't know what your strengths are, these are the stories of my life and my client's life that are going to help you realize you are so not alone. Like, this is so normal. I had a really funny conversation with a client this morning. She said, when I started working with you, I was absolutely convinced it wasn't going to work. And I just thought, well, I may as well try because it's not going to work anyway. And then I can just accept that I'm useless. And I was like, okay, glad you told me that after we started working together. And then she said, yeah, I was just kind of absolutely convinced that I was completely unique and broken and nothing was ever going to work because I am this special case of uselessness. And I just said to her, I'm just really sorry to break it to you, but you're just dead normal. Like, this is just the most normal conversation I've ever had about neurodiversity. Everything you just say, I'm like, yep, I've had that 10 times before. Yep, that's super normal. Yep, that happens all the time. So I tried to do that in the first half of a chapter. And then the second half of the chapter is kind of do this, try this. This is going to help. Which I think is a little bit more of the dry end. I prefer the first half.
Mm-hmm.
So the structure I did have. So all of those things I'm kind of doing all of the time. So that did make life a little bit easier. But exactly how you break that down, how you phrase it, how you put it into titles and all of that kind of stuff, that felt really overwhelming.
Yeah. So, because I quite like the idea, and I've read far too many books on how to do things, and I quite like the ones that have that kind of, from my understanding, your structure where you've almost got the case study or the worked example or whatever you want, the narrative side of it.
Yeah.
And then at the end is the practical, tactical kind of tips part of it, which, as you say, is a little bit dry, but that's the kind of takeaways, isn't it? Like, I do this and then this, but the story bit beforehand kind of sets the scene, is the bit that sticks in my mind when I finish reading them kind of books.
That's what I was hoping. I was hoping that it would just make it a little bit more digestible and a bit more interesting. Some of them are quite funny, I must say. Some of them, the publisher was like, you need to get approval for that. you can't write that unless they sign it off. You can't, you're going to get sued. You have to email them and check that that's okay. So hopefully people get a really good giggle out of some of them.
Great. Would that be individuals you had to check with or a company?
Yeah, I had to check with the individuals to be like, are you okay for me to say this? It's all anonymized. So, there's no company names, there's no people's names, but there's like the person would know it's them.
Yes.
So I had to get kind of, all these like waivers signed, which was quite funny actually, because it was about 3 weeks ago that I had to do all of this. So the book had already been finalized and all been written and done. Proofs are in, and I was like, oh, by the way, I'm going to start recording some of the stories that are included in the book. I just wanted to check, you're okay with me putting that out publicly? And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, all the stories in the book, we've not checked them with anyone, so do we need to check them with anyone? And they were like, we haven't checked them. What do you mean we haven't checked them? And so I was kind of hurriedly emailing everyone to be like, here's the screenshot of your story in the book. Are you okay with that? Is that all right? Luckily, everyone said yes, but it was a really horrid panic. We were going to press in 3 days, and people were not replying as quick, because some of these people I'd spoken to 4 years ago. And I'm like, their story was so shocking that it kind of stuck in my head for years. Email them and be like, this is you. Are you okay with that? And sometimes it was 2 people's stories stuck together for kind of pithiness. And I was like, this isn't quite your story, but this is about what you said.
This is inspired by you.
This is like a pithy version of your story. And then sometimes they were so outrageous that we had to change them to my story. And lots of fun.
Did you?
Yeah, we had to change them to me sometimes,
So what sort of things would that be? Would that be sort of embarrassing things that people have forgot?
Things, horrible things people have said to people, funny workarounds of how people are navigating their dyslexia, the bizarre things that you do to feel capable and confident. One of the examples that I really love is this girl who told me that when she was deciding to break up with her boyfriend, she was really nervous that she wouldn't communicate her thoughts quickly and simply, because obviously one of the big challenges with dyslexia is working memory, and working memory helps you organize your thoughts. So if anyone ever feels like they are kind of derailed storyteller, yes, that's a classic working memory issue. So she kind of told me this funny story about how she recorded herself breaking up with her boyfriend.
Right.
Played him back to check that she'd broken up with him correctly. So some of those kind of stories to help people realize the quirky things that you do, you think is just you, but actually, it's really normal.
That is good fun. I like that idea. And I wish sometimes when I was having to say something important, the windscreen in my car had better memory than it does, because I've always nailed it to there. In front of the people is the hard bit.
Yeah, there was quite a few stories like that just hopefully give people a sense of the reality of actually it's not a you thing, it's a dyslexic thing, and there's 700 million other dyslexics, so we just don't need to feel alone.
Yes, definitely. Sounds like good fun. Is there a focused audience that you're gonna...
I think so. I like to think that it's for ambitious adult dyslexics. So for people who want more from themselves in their life, they don't want to feel so exhausted. They want to achieve their potential. They want to kind of be less frustrated. They are like, I know I have an ability. I have there's a little special sauce that I know that I have that I'm not maxing right now. And whether or not that's because you want to spend more time at home and you want to work, and not have to work 3 hours extra to get the same result, or whether or not you're like, do you know what, I want to turn up the dial on this. I really want to kind of get somewhere in life. Then I really hope that it finds those people. I mean, it is for adult dyslexic, so it's covering how to talk to your parents about dyslexia, how to talk to your boss about dyslexia, how to there's lots of working memory examples of lots of different areas in your life. So how to talk to the doctor, or how to, if you're in court, how to talk to a judge. And so there's lots of different examples. So it's pretty broad, but who I wrote it for is ambitious dyslexics who are like, I want to get somewhere in life.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably very much, you're almost writing it for yourself at that point, aren't you?
I was about to say, I think it's for a younger version of myself.
Yeah.
You know, I was in my 20s when I started Dyslexia in Adults, and I was just going home a lot crying. I was having a lot of uncomfortable conversations with my bosses about how useless I was. I was getting my probation extended. I was getting passed over for opportunities. And yet people would say to me, but you're really smart, but you're really capable. You know, I would fly through interviews. You know, people would be like, oh, we'd love to hire you. And then a week in, they'd be like, oh, that was a mistake. People always saw something in me that they believed in, but then they would deal with like my organizational skills, my like ability to kind of break down an idea, my mostly my organizational difficulties, but a lot of different areas of dyslexia. And they would be like, we want all of the good parts, but we don't want any of the bad parts. And I was like, oh, it's unfortunately not how the cookie crumbles. So yeah.
Did I remember correctly that you started inadvertently Dyslexia in Adults while on the toilet on Instagram, or have I misremembered the story?
You've definitely misremembered that story. But I really hope that that's someone else's story of how they started the business. No, I started Dyslexia in Adults. Well, I mean, about 10 years I was going, someone should really solve this adult dyslexia thing. This adult dyslexia thing is a bit of a problem, because I once got told by a 10-person HR team to Google how to navigate my dyslexia better. Yeah, it was really helpful. I really appreciated that. Just right after they put me on probation back again because I was struggling, they were like, why don't you just Google it? And I was like, yeah that's
hooray
how it
for
works.
them. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah. And I mean, this is in 2019, well before there was anything to kind of actually do. So yeah, for years I've been thinking I should do something about it. And then this is one of the many stories that were in the book that I didn't have to get permission for because it's my story. But my boss at the time screamed at me. I'd made the company an extra 50,000. I used to work in sales. So I made the company £50,000 extra beyond what my targets were from this great idea I'd had, which was definitely due to my dyslexia, just like classic dyslexia. And then the following week, I'd made an error in the difference between pounds. I'd put something in like pounds rather than dollars, or dollars rather than pounds. I can't remember which way round it was, which meant that I'd lost the company about £500 because of the exchange rate differences. My boss screamed at me and was like, are you lazy or are you stupid? Like, what is wrong with you? Is it both? Just screaming in my face. And I went home and I was so upset, and I was like, I'm just so useless. I'm so incapable. All these horrible things. And my partner at the time, he was like, it's a real gift. And I was like, it's not a gift. It's not a gift. It's a curse. And
yeah, just what you needed to hear.
It was just what I really needed in that moment. And then I was feeling so nervous about going into work the next day. On the train on the way in, I created Dyslexia in Adults. So not the toilet, the train.
No, the train. Right. It began with tea anyway.
That's true, but definitely not the toilet.
Fair enough. But yeah, funny how we misremember stuff. Where did you wedge in writing this book? Living between two countries, running all the business, all the stuff, the content that comes out, emails, post, all that fun stuff. And then you take on a book project that you already admitted you didn't have time for. So how did you wedge that in?
In all honesty, it's taken a massive toll. Like, it's been really hard.
Yeah.
I don't want to kind of pretend that there was like some magic formula of kind of like, well, I time blocked and I did this and did this and did this. The truth is that it was good old fashioned dyslexic elbow grease of I worked really hard. The only thing I will say is that it was kind of 4 months of hunkering down to do the manuscript of like, okay, no one speak to me, like consider me dead. I am focused. My team weren't allowed to speak to me. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have a life. I was just focused. I actually met my boyfriend during this time. So how he managed to like kind of elbow in my time, I don't know. I would just be like, yeah, I've got 30 minutes here, but then you need to go.
Some effort.
So I was a real peach to be around at that time. And then once the manuscript is done, you have kind of busy 2-week blocks. So they'll be like, okay, there's a new round of proofs. You've got to like edit and review, or like you've got to have a kind of 4-hour call with the proofreader and kind of go through things. after you've done the manuscript, it does get a little bit less stressful. But the thing I would always say to my boyfriend is I'd be like, I've got book stress at the moment, so just don't talk to me. It's like a round of proofs or something was happening. Everyone around me would be like, it's book week. Leave me alone. So I did have a little bit of structure to be able to, know that was coming, and then I could kind of create space in my schedule. But it wasn't easy. It was really hard. I'm really, really grateful that it's out in the world.
Reviewing. Sometimes I'm like, when I do stuff, I'm like, great, I've got it out in the world. Somebody could edit it, and then it comes back to me, and then you have to read it and read the review. Yeah. And the temptation to kind of race through that, like, yeah, they've probably done it right, is really, I find really difficult to kind of control. So how did you do the reviewing? How did you find that?
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. It's not the most neurodiverse friendly task at the best of times.
No.
But it's boring. It's just really boring. So what I would do is I would print the manuscript. It's 217 pages. I know that by heart because I'd be like, okay, 60 pages to go, 50 pages to go. And I'd print the manuscript. And then I would sit with a bucket of popcorn, and it was a bucket, and I would conveyor belt eat the popcorn as some form of like entertainment during the reading process. So I would listen to the book rather than just read it. So I'd have it read to me, and I would have the physically copy as well, reading with my finger. And then I would be kind of like chomping on popcorn aggressively as some kind of like additional stimuli. So one of the things I've kind of figured out through starting dyslexia in adults is that I have ADHD alongside my dyslexia.
Right, yes.
And so kind of understanding the inputs you need to be able to manage your attention span is something I've spent a lot of time learning about, and kind of munching the kind of conveyor belt of popcorn was the only option for getting through like round 7 and round 8 of the proofs.
Interesting. It just, because as far as I'm aware, I don't have ADHD. So it's just keeping that bit of your brain occupied with something, which in this case is the sort of motor skills of picking up and eating popcorn.
Yeah. So the way that I think about it is my attention span is kind of 100%. And then a task like that is not going to fill it fully. It's not going to be enough to leave me feeling like I'm kind of satiated. My brain will be like, I want to do something else. Like, please can we not do this? So you kind of have to top up to reach your full attention span so that your brain isn't kind of calling for something else. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong, after kind of page 175, I was thinking to myself, oh dear God. And the popcorn bucket was like slightly lower, and I was feeling a bit frustrated.
Maybe not a bit sick after all that popcorn.
Potentially also a bit sick. But it did really help just to kind of give myself something to hold my interest beyond just kind of delving through this book, because the publisher was really, really supportive and really sweet. But they still are like, okay, cool, here's the proofs. Can you give us reviews in 2 days? And you're like, two days?
2 days? Wow.
For a whole book? Is that a...
Wow. That 2 days, that's a lot for somebody who doesn't have dyslexia, let alone somebody who does.
Exactly. It was really challenging.
Yeah. I'm sort of not going to leave the analogy of having 100% focus space. If something's difficult in the book and say the book takes like 30% normally, and then the popcorn fills the rest in, how does that exchange if there's something kind of bigger that you're reading into that sort of pushes that 30% up to 50?
Yeah.
How does that look?
Yeah, so then you don't need the popcorn, right? Then you're starting to...
you just slow down, right?
You're just starting to feel more like in of the task. And so you can kind of just like reduce your other stimuli as something kind of takes more interest or engagement. And as things get lower, the kind of popcorn starts coming in thick and fast. My dog is getting little scraps off the floor.
Yeah. Oh, that's handy. He's got a dog to clean up after. And that comes naturally to you, does it? The kind of balance sort of juggle of that?
It's definitely something I've learned and understood about myself. And like, it's definitely part of my toolkit rather than something that I've kind of always done. I used to just be the classic dyslexic person of feeling ashamed that I couldn't just push through.
Yeah. Yes. Interestingly, I found as I've got older, the ability to push through has reduced. And then I've had to find new things that allow me to do that. Like, where's the relentlessness gone? But I think that's just a younger person's way of solving the problem, which is not necessarily the best way. It just worked at the time. So what's obviously you would have gone on a big personal journey while writing this book, as well as trying to cram through everything else. So how did you find your kind of personal journey through? What have you learned? What did you get out of it? And would you write another book?
There was a big sigh there for a reason.
Yes.
I've spent the last 3 months saying to the publisher, this has got to go well because I'm not writing another one. So
no, you'll find if it goes well, people want another one. That's how this works.
That's true. But I don't hope to write another one. I hope to be done. No, I shouldn't say that. Because that's not true. It just feels true at the moment. Yeah, I think it's been a really confounding experience in a lot of different ways. It kind of, on my personal life, it meant I had to kind of scale back a lot of things to be able to fit space for it. In my kind of business owner space, I had to really kind of look myself in the mirror and have the confidence, be like, do you have the confidence to do this? Because a lot of the time I would just have these wobbles of what if it's not any good? What if I'm useless? What if it's wrong? And there was a lot of hand holding from the publisher to be like, it's not, you're not useless. It is good. Don't worry. So I think it really was confronting for me personally to how I think about myself and how I think about the business, and just really having to kind of believe in yourself in a bigger way than I have up until now. And I feel like I've done a lot of big things, but this was big. And then it definitely took all of my systems and all of my structure and all of my strategies to get it across the line. It really showed me that I have what I need to be able to do what I want to do in life, which was really nice. But it really, I often say to my clients, sometimes you need a screwdriver and things are fine. And sometimes you need a pneumatic drill to get through the day. And I do feel like I've been kind of using the pneumatic drill a bit more than I probably would like.
Yes, I could understand that. So basically, it's almost a force of will to get it out in the world at this point.
Yeah, I think it was more a labour of love than a force of will.
Fair enough.
I don't want to be too negative. Yeah, it's just been something that I feel like is kind of it feels a little bit like the thing that's going to be on your obituary. It just feels like this big thing. And I often tell people just, randomly, they'll be like, oh, I'll be in a cafe and they'll be like, oh, they'll say something. I'm like, oh, I'm just editing my book. And they often say, oh, good for you. Are you publishing it on Amazon? I was like, oh no, I've got a publisher. Oh, did you have to email a lot of people? Oh no, they came to me, and people don't believe me that it's kind of what it is. I'm even speaking to someone today, and they were like, "Oh, are you going to use that to record the audio for the book yourself?" And I was like, Oh no, the publisher pays for a studio. The publisher has their own studio. So I do it in the publisher's studio. They're like, oh, you've got a publisher for you? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So it's I think a lot of people even that I come across can't believe that it's happening.
Yeah,
and that really reinforces to me how exciting this is. And I kind of say that because my biggest hope with it is that it starts to really put dyslexia, and particularly adult dyslexia, a little bit more on the map. I do feel really frustrated that it just seems to be this you've got neurodiversity, and then dyslexia seems to be this side conversation of neurodiversity. Mm-hmm. And then adult dyslexia is this side conversation of dyslexia. And I just feel like we're a side conversation of a side conversation. And dyslexia is the biggest percentage of the neurodiversities. And adults are the biggest percentage of people who have dyslexia. So why are we the side conversation? I feel confused and frustrated about it. So I really hope that this doing well will start to remedy that. And there's so many statistics I've seen since kind of seeing that is the amount of posts that are on social media is like millions and millions on ADHD and autism, and it's kind of tens of thousands on dyslexia. On Amazon, there is a category for ADHD and for autism. There is no category for dyslexia on books in
Really?
Amazon, which just shows you like how much it is a side conversation. People who are in the kind of seats of power, who are choosing what gets talked about, what gets funding, what gets supported, don't believe in adult dyslexia at the moment. Like when I put my book proposal in, the head of sales, the first thing they said is, well, no dyslexia person's going to read a book. And I was like, well, what a reductive way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
You've got audiobooks, plenty of dyslexia people read books. Like, don't write us off. Like, don't discount us. So, it was a labour of love that I really hope starts to kind of a snowball of change.
Yes, and I hope so too. That was going to be my next question is what do you think you'd hope for the book, but you've covered it. So I think importantly, we should tell everybody when it comes out, where they can buy it, and when the audio version comes out, because I know quite a lot of people would be definitely keen for the audio one. And it's your dulcet tones that are coming.
It is my dulcet tones.
It is,
yeah.
is it? Okay.
Yeah. So it all comes out on the 23rd of April, the audiobook and the book. And like I said, the pre-orders make a huge difference, like a huge, huge difference. So if you are planning on buying the book, if you can get the pre-order, it makes a massive difference to the people who are paying attention as to whether or not these things do well or not. It's kind of like you live and die by the first week of sales, unfortunately.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So that's something to kind of bear in mind. If anyone else does ever have a book coming out and they go on about pre-orders, they aren't being a pain in the arse. That is really just what it is. So you can get everything on the 23rd. You can pre-order the audiobook as well. And everything is out on the 23rd. If anyone is listening from a different part of the world, Australia, the US, and India are all getting different publishing dates. And there is going to be a Spanish translation of the book.
Nice.
And then if you're in any other countries, you can just order it off the UK Amazon. So, yeah, but all of the details will be in the bio below. I've given Matt all of the links and things like that.
Which, of course, you can find at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast.
There we go.
I even remembered the link. Well, I was going to ask you my rapid-fire questions, but you have already answered them in the previous episode, so I think people can go back to what 2022 you thought of that. So before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to add? And where can people find you?
Do me some rapid-fire questions. That sounds like fun.
Fair enough. Why not? I had to dig the paper out. I did used to be able to remember these off by heart. So every person who comes on the podcast asks 3 rapid-fire questions from me. They don't necessarily need rapid-fire answers from yourself. See, I can remember that bit. Question number 1. What prejudices have you had about dyslexia that's been proven wrong?
I once was interviewing on the street people and someone said to me, you're dyslexic. You obviously never went to university. And I was like, come again? What? I was like, Of course I went to university. What a strange thing to say. So I do feel like the assumption that dyslexic people can't read or can't kind of achieve things, people are surprised, which to be honest, I just didn't think people thought that anymore. And occasionally I come across it and I'm just like, I'm surprised that you still think that. And it was a young person as well. So it felt quite confusing. So I do feel like people think that dyslexic people don't go to university. And that I find really surprising.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, some people think. I don't think a lot of people think, but some people do.
What do you mean you got a degree? Well, you've got one.
Yeah. Like what?
What? It might not be a law degree, but...
But there's plenty of dyslexic lawyers out there.
There definitely is, yeah. And there's plenty of non-dyslexic engineers.
Exactly.
Cool. Right. Rapid fire question number 2. If an alien landed, you had to describe dyslexia to them, how would you do it?
A different way in processing information that results in strengths and challenges.
Brilliant, concise answer. Yes. And the final rapid fire question is set. And seeing as this is the Dyslexia Lifehack Show, what is your favourite dyslexia life hack?
Deadlines. I live and die by deadlines. Deadlines with deadlines with deadlines upon deadlines. There's no deadlines, there's no task initiation, and nothing gets done. Deadlines, live and die by them.
How do you find the stress of having deadlines all the time? Because
I create further away deadlines. So I don't work to the actual deadline. I go like a couple of days before to so they're kind of fake deadlines.
Okay, right.
I'll give you an example of a client I was speaking to yesterday, and I was kind of like, you need more deadlines. And he was like, oh no, that's not going to work for me. And I was like, trust me, you need more. So he has this video editing company, and there was this banquet season that he is working on, and he was telling me that he was really embarrassed that he's going to be sending over the edits for the video for that banquet that day. And he was like, it's really not good enough. I don't want to be like that. And I was like, absolutely get it. You got to have better deadlines. And he was like,
definitely.
but I'm working to the deadline. I'm doing it on the day. And I was like, oh, no. So I said, okay, if you know you've got banquet season every year, what you do is like 6 weeks out, you set a meeting and you say, cool, what is everything you need for these series of banquets? Like all of the requirements. And then you set another meeting a week before all of the banquets start and you say, okay, let's check off everything that's been done and what is happening. So the deadline becomes that meeting, not the day of the banquet. And he was just like, that's genius. And I was like, is it? Just seems like common sense to me.
Clever thing with that is because it's a deadline with accountability.
Well, exactly. Yes. So then I was recanting this story to the client I was telling you about this morning, who thought she was special, and I was kind of shooting her down. And she was like, yeah, I feel really exhausted because I'm trying to start all of this work a week early, and I just don't want to. Like my brain is just shutting down, and I just can't. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. But you're doing it a week early, so you need a deadline. She was like, oh no, I can't do it on the day of the deadline. I was like, no. So she has this specific job where she has to kind of review companies. And I was like, okay, so you have a meeting with your boss every Thursday where you give him the update of the reviews of the companies you've given for the week ahead. So the deadline is not on the day of when you have to review the company. It is the Thursday before. That is the new deadline. And then every Thursday, you will be a mad rabbit doing all of the analysis, or maybe Wednesday afternoon if you're lucky. And your new deadline is a much more achievable deadline. So I don't feel stressed by my deadlines because mostly they're further ahead than they need to be. There is the occasional one that slips through right at the end, but very rarely now.
Hence the built-in buffer.
Yes, the built-in buffer is the best. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that's a really cool hack. I like that. When you initially said it, I was like, oh God, deadlines. But actually, how you've structured around it really makes it an effective technique.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to add, and where can people find you?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me back. It's just a real pleasure to catch up. I feel like just really touched. And everyone can find me at dyslexiainadults.com, and they can find Dyslexia Unlocked on Amazon, Audible, all of the places.
All of the places. Yeah, keep an eye out for that. 23rd of April.
Yes, exactly.
All right. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody else for taking the time to listen. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.